The Hittite wretch with his army forded the river south of Kadesh, smashing into His Majesty's army when it least expected an attack.
The dust, the choking dust, the blood pouring onto the desert sands, these soldiers who looked death in the face at every moment of one of these battles must have been absolute hell.
Ramesses' troops fell before the Hittites' iron weapons. The Egyptian army stood on the brink of defeat. Then, at the last minute, Ramesses' reinforcements arrived. They took the Hittites by surprise.
Ramesses has been unbelievably lucky, and he ends up at the end of the day holding the battlefield. Actually, it was something of a goalless draw and snatched from defeat at the last moment by the arrival of the Egyptian equivalent of the US cavalry.
Ramesses had failed in his mission. The Hittites would be back, and Egypt's trade routes and empire were still vulnerable.
The Battle of Kadesh did not go according to plan. At the most, it was a way for the Egyptians to prevent the Hittites from moving further south. But it was certainly not the flamboyant victory that Ramesses wanted.
Ramesses, however, was determined to have his victory. Back in Egypt, he would tell a far different story of the Battle of Kadesh.
What Ramesses does is say, right, I'm going to rewrite history. So it's going to be the big gesture, it's going to be the vainglorious boast, it's going to be the huge publicity machine, it's going to be the hieroglyphic equivalent of spin doctoring.
Ramesses now masterminded an extraordinary propaganda campaign. He sent out legions of artisans to carve epic depictions of the Battle of Kadesh on temple walls around the empire. The story he told begins truthfully, but then veers off into fantasy. The young king claimed he had won a clear victory at Kadesh, and it was not the Egyptian reinforcements, but he himself who all alone had saved the day. In Ramesses' version, he transformed himself from a gullible, inexperienced commander into a godlike warrior. Every temple wall carried the same story.
His Majesty leapt up, raging against them. He grabbed his weapons and set off at a gallop, completely alone. His Majesty was an unstoppable fighting force. Everything near him was ablaze with fire. All the foreign lands were blasted by his scorching breath.
He claims that single-handedly, after his troops had deserted him, he went into the field of battle, slashing, swaying his sword back and forth, decimating the enemies of Egypt.
He charged straight into the Hittite troops. The infantry and chariotry fell on their faces. His Majesty struck them down and killed them where they stood.
The claims of Ramesses II that his army totally abandoned him, that he was left alone on the field of battle and single-handedly defeated the Hittites, of course, is an utter load of rubbish.
Despite his boasting, Ramesses knew that his army could not defeat the Hittites. He had to cut a deal. Secretly, Ramesses began to negotiate with the Hittites. After lengthy debate, Ramesses signed a treaty with the Hittite king. Ramesses the spin doctor was now Ramesses the statesman. A copy of the treaty is still preserved in the most holy of temples at Karnak, chiseled onto a wall.
I, the great Hittite ruler, am at peace with Ramesses, the great king of Egypt, and enjoy his brotherhood. All the people of Egypt and all the Hittite people will be at peace like us forever.